Hello, truth seekers. Lawrence here, and welcome to Easy Enlightenment. So, now we are seeking freedom from the mind. Why? Because mind has become the source of struggle. We see a lot of conflict, we see a lot of fear within when we are listening to the mind. Now, it's a good thing that we see the signpost that something is not right, and because of that, we seek freedom. Good start. But at the same time, we also contradict our freedom by continuing the mental game. We want to be free from the mind, but we're not, stepping back or disengaging from the mind to, understand the mind. That part is always neglected. And as a human being, definitely we have to, be part of the dialogue when we are being part of the world. We have to engage to some extent. But at the same time, we also over-engage. We don't remember to, stop the dialogue, especially when the dialogue is happening in a fun or entertaining way. It continues. Just remember one of the conversation you had with the people when the conversation is happening on the topic that you like, or the topic that entertains your ego, basically. You continue for hours and hours. So there's no stop button for that flow. Not just that, when we are being part of the world, we also experience friction with the world, isn't it? When we feel the friction, that the outer friction becomes the inner friction, and that creates the inner dialogue. And also when we are having the dialogue, we don't know when to stop the inner dialogue. The more we have the conversation with ourselves, the dialogue continues, and it creates the vortex that we keep diving in. And the more we dive in, the more we see conflict, more drama we see, more fear we see, and it doesn't stop. The reason we are having a hard time to stop the inner dialogue or the outer dialogue is because we don't know how to stop. That's the first scenario. Right now, people are, being part of the spiritual practices to stop the mental dialogue, the mental narration with certain practices, like controlling the body and mind, especially controlling the mind. And, that itself is, going against the flow. Resisting the mind, it's not, disengaging from the mind. It's still engaging with the mind. This is one thing people don't realize, that when you're controlling the mind, you're holding on to the mind. Definitely from the continuous flow of the mind, the continual narration of the mind, you can, stop it with a control approach by taming the mind, by focusing on something on the mind. You can do that, but notice that the final whole is still there. That's why the taming the mind doesn't work. The final layer is still there. Yes, in the moment when you're doing the work, when you're taming the mind, when you're controlling the mind, it works in a way that you're forgetting the friction that you experienced in the past. But once you let go of the practice, once you are back in the world, your friction starts to resurface again. Notice if the friction is happening in a workspace where you have to be part of, and yes, being part of the meditation, controlling yourself, it's working there. But now you're facing the people at your workplace again. Don't you see that the whole feeling, the whole, that friction resurface right away? And what we do when this, this friction resurface, then we start to create a wall. Another mental layer we create by having the wall. We have this idea in us that, that we make sure that the friction doesn't come to us in a way that this doesn't exist. I don't want to have this in my world. There's so many other positive trap that we invite to create a wall. The more we do that, the more we prolong, the mental game. Again, basically, not knowing how to disengage from the mind makes us continue the mental narration within and outside. And this is where, we need to, we need to be part of the inquiry practice, self-inquiry practice. Self-inquiry practice is the way to understand the mind. Not just that, it's the way to understand oneself. Why we prolong the narration. Why do I have a hard time disengaging from the inner dialogue as well as the outer dialogue? Inquiry is the way to understand what's happening in life, why things are bothering us, rather than creating the wall. The wall doesn't help to, be free. The wall is now creating a boundary, and we are stuck within the boundary, and but also there's that curiosity of what's beyond the boundary. The ego loves to play, create that game. It's I need to create my boundary. I need to take the things away. I need to push away the things that is not working in my life. And also, I want to explore the world. Both the dual perception is present, contradicting perception. No matter how much you create the wall, the desire for, for the growth is still there. Desire for the freedom is still there. And when you have the desire for growth and freedom, you have to be part of the world. And when you be part of the world, you experience that friction again and again and again. Just notice how many times in your life you have, experienced the friction, and how many times you have created the wall, and how many times you have realized that fighting with the world is not working. You have to accept the world. You have that idea too. Accepting things as it is the way to move forward in life. The positive idea is there, but still having this idea that I have to accept the world as it is, but still there is a fight, there is a narration. The mental narration is never ending, because of that there is a stress. We see that. Again, how do we stop? Is by being part of the self-inquiry. If you understand yourself thoroughly with the self-inquiry practice, you'll also understand the world. Why the world moves the way it moves. But if you don't understand yourself, you won't understand the world. Why? Because you are no different from the world. You are your mind, and the world is also the mind, and all mind is always changing with experience. The mind is always upgrading. And no matter how much upgrade is coming in the mind, it is still not freedom. The outer growth, outer success is not true freedom. That is the relative freedom, the functioning freedom. The functioning freedom doesn't dissolve the inner fear. And that's why the struggle continues because of the fear itself. Notice how much successful you are in your life, there's still the fear lingering in you. Not just the successful people, even the unsuccessful people have a lot of fear. Unsuccessful people are fear of being nobody, fear of not having enough. Successful people are, afraid of losing what they have gained or seeking further upgrades. And all this is happening from the place of fear. And fear itself is making all the narration, and fear is making the conversation, the inner dialogue or outer dialogue to continue. So how to disengage from this inner dialogue, how to disengage and let the fear be and not get affected by the fear, is by turning the awareness back to oneself and really really be thorough in the self-inquiry in unbiased way. And that's the way to disengage from the mind. Witnessing oneself and being part of the self-inquiry itself is already disengaging from the worldly narration, and also not allowing the further narration in oneself. The self-inquiry is the backward movement in dismantling the mind. Yes, you are engaging with yourself in looking at the mind and going backward. Seems like you're still engaging with the mind. Engaging in the mind in a way that you are peeling the layer of the mind to go back to the root cause of the suffering, root cause of the struggle, root cause of the fear. So there's a difference. So the simple way to disengage from the mind is by being part of yourself, by being aware of yourself, and start doing the backward movement of the mind. So here's the exercise that you can be part of. So you have that never-ending mental narration in you, the never-ending inner dialogue. Now, ask yourself, why am I having this dialogue? That's it. Why am I having this dialogue? The inner dialogue, the inner conversation with yourself. Why? There's a reason for it. You're trying to find the solution for sure. That's why you're having the inner dialogue. But you're not able to find the solution to stop the inner dialogue, right? So you are seeking you're continuing the dialogue, I'm asking you to ask yourself, why am I having the inner dialogue? Why? There has to be the reason to continue in that mental narration. So allow that why, the first why, provide you the answer. Now, whatever answer comes in you, use that answer to deepen the inward journey by asking, why is that answer important? Why do I associate it with this answer? And this second why is going to help you to see the second answer. And again, adding why, asking why on the second answer is going to give you the third answer. So see, this is the way to peel the mind. And this is the way to figure out the root cause of your never-ending inner dialogue. Because of the attachment, because of the fear that is making you continuing on that dialogue. And that root is where your life is happening. Subconsciously, your life is moving from the root. We only see the surface in the beginning before the inquiry. But once you start to do the inquiry, you see the root. Because of the root, that everything is happening on the surface. So once you figure out the root cause of the suffering, then you have to eliminate the root as well. When you figure out the root, in a relative sense, you can always, rearrange your mind and action to move forward. That is already a productive way to live your life in the outside world. But that doesn't dissolve your inner struggle, inner fear. Okay? So when you figure out the root, you got to eliminate the root altogether until there's nothing is left. And that is the way to be truly free from the mind. You can, once you see the root, once you eliminate the root, the eliminating the root happens when you see the truth, the plain sight truth within. The process is still the same, asking why am I moving from this place, why am I moving from the root? Or why do I have the attachment of fear? That will help you to eliminate the root. Now, eliminating the root comes from seeing the plain sight truth. But notice, after seeing the root, after realizing the truth within, the mind still exists. Your past still exists. But now you're not bothered by your past. And you will catch yourself right away in the mental game, and you will step back from the mental game. Post-enlightenment, the residue is still there. Residue of the past. Residue of the mind. But it doesn't bother you anymore. You will be able to disengage from the mental drama easily when the truth is seen. Right? So anyway, the easy way to eventually succeed in disengaging from the mind is by being part of the self-inquiry, by witnessing yourself and tracing back your mind and asking yourself, who am I? And these 3 simple steps is going to help you, overcome your mind. Anyway, hope this video makes sense to some extent. Hope you're enjoying your backward movement. Keep going, stay unbiased in the journey, and you will see eventually the plain sight truth. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next video. Bye.